Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to the Cinematic Wasteland here on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network. And this is our monthly show where my buddies, Luke and Adam, we all come together and three guys' passion for film take us through the history of movies. But Luke, thank you so much for coming on as always.
Always a blast.
And you too, Adam.
Ditto, buongiorno, everybody.
Buongiorno.
Gotta try something different, right?
But we basically what we do here is we pick a year we are going through chronologically for now. I guess we're gonna have to confront that once we actually catch up in time in like years.
Yep.
If we get there. But you know what? But we're on the year 1928, and we're going to give a little bit of a history lesson, talk a little bit of box office. You know, right now, the box office stuff is like a minute because they don't have a whole lot of records for stuff like that for this early in cinema. But this is our first episode. We're going to be taking a dive into some of the Oscar stuff because the first ever Oscars were for films from half of 1927 and half of 1928 because somebody thought that was a good idea. And luckily they changed that pretty quickly.
Yep.
I guess they were on a school timeline, June to July, July to June. Sorry, yes, July to June. But and then we'll be
financial
getting
year.
Yeah. So we'll be getting into our film that we picked for this month, which is The Crowd. But let's get into some history first. We have RKO, which is Radio Keith Orpheum Pictures. Look at that. I had no idea what that stood for.
I was just
Thank
gonna
you.
say
I didn't
that.
either. What was the second word? Keith,
Keith, yes.
as in like
That's
Keith Urban.
Yeah.
that's
Huh.
so
Or
so
for
less
Yu-Gi-Oh fans
impressive.
out there, Bandit Keith. Um,
That's just so less impressive than like you always see the old movies like RKO presents. I was like, oh, that sounds cool, and it's
Yeah.
like the second word is Keith. I was like, well, that's not as
Yeah.
cool. Let's
I
stick
knew the
with the
first one was going to be
RKO.
radio, but Keith, that doesn't
yeah,
make
I figured the first one was radio, but
yeah.
but as a pro
Radio
wrestling fan,
knockout.
this is just Randy Kevin
Royal
Orton.
knockout.
So RKO out of nowhere pictures. Evolving originally from Mutual Film Corporation, which started in 1912, was created in a merger of Radio Corporation of America, RCA, the Film Booking Office, FBO, and Keith Albee Orpheum. So that's interesting. That's where the K and the O come from.
Was the C in RCA Craig? What's the C?
Radio. No, no, Adam. That one was
Corey?
corporation, like a normal company.
Right.
A major
Ralph
vaudeville
Corey.
corporation. It was established as a subsidiary of RCA and joined the ranks of the major Hollywood studios. So it was an RCA company. Interesting. Director Roy William Neal's The Viking was the first feature-length Technicolor film that featured a soundtrack and the first film made in Technicolor Process 3.
Wow.
Vikings.
Process 3. What are they up to now?
Well, when did we stop using Technicolor?
We no longer use
No, we
Technicolor,
still
do we?
do. I've
Do
seen
we?
film like when I say recent films, I'm talking the 90s. It still say Technicolor on them.
I'm going to
Yeah.
go out on a limb and guess then about 56. So they're up to Process
Why not?
56.
It was a
Anybody
rhetorical
will-
question, but worth pondering.
Well, I gave you an answer anyway, which is
Yeah,
potentially
I'll-
outlandish. If anybody wants to do some real research, you can look it up.
I'm taking it to the bank.
By 1928, Hollywood's major film studios had signed an agreement with AT&T. Oh, that's when that started. Year less than 100 years before they ruined Warner Brothers. So they made this agreement with AT&T and Western Electric's licensing division, ERPI, Electrical Research Products Inc., to use their audio technologies to produce films with sound. They proceeded with the conversation of production facilities and theaters for sound film. This led to an explosion in popularity. So it looks like AT&T was actually an early collaborator with the film industry to make sound happen.
Okay, that's good for them, I guess. And now
There,
that name is slapped on all the buildings.
there you
Just
go.
just to go back one step, the last film to use Technicolor was The Aviator.
Ooh,
That makes
Martin
So
sense.
pretty, yeah.
Scorsese.
Hmm.
Which
Cinema.
I know he used a bunch of different aging technologies to give it that kind of
Hmm.
vibe for
Yeah,
Mhm.
sure.
absolutely. Yeah.
What a film nerd.
Would have used the Kodak stock or something as well.
Yeah. The first Mickey Mouse short animated film, Plane Crazy, was debuted on May 15th, 1928. The character of an animated mouse, future Mickey Mouse, was modified from Disney's earlier character, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, which was introduced in 1927. So this was the dawn of the House of Mouse.
The dawn of the apes.
Dawn.
No, no, no mouse. Sorry.
Dawn
Which,
of the Planet of the Mouse.
there we go.
Mhm.
Mickey Mouse has come a long way, especially the version in South Park, who you don't want to mess with. Uh, Randy, you're gonna have sex with that pangolin.
That was a great episode.
And that is how COVID.
Yes.
That was wild. That was so messed up. But no, I've actually seen some of those shorts with
Mhm.
the Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, so that's very interesting. The first all talking cartoon short, Paul Terry's Dinner Time, with synchronized sound was premiered preceding Disney's Steamboat Willie by a month.
Hmm.
It was made after Warner Brothers' success with the jazz singer. But I think the moral of this story is if you have better marketing and a genius behind it, your film will be remembered, and the ones that actually did it first will not. So
It's the same. Well, it's
Yeah.
the same as
Yeah.
the Blair Witch Project, isn't it? You know, it's also often regarded. Oh, this is the first found footage horror. No, there was like a month
Mm,
or two before. There was an actual found footage horror, like before that, but it had no marketing and it had no like cult following before it was even released. Didn't have the oh they were actually dead. There is an actual I cannot remember the name of the movie, but there was an actual found footage horror movie also kind of set in the woods, like 2-3 months before the Blair Witch Project. But marketing,
really?
yeah, yeah,
Mm,
well, maybe they
mm.
should have tried to trick everybody into thinking this
yeah.
movie actually happened too, and then they would have been remembered.
And the people actually died, Shane. I mean, they didn't, but hey,
Not gonna lie, halfway through that movie, I'm like, I'm ready for these people to die.
same.
They're ignoring the shit out of me.
So
Yes.
what
But
movie is this? I
the
don't-
Blair Witch Project.
Oh
Not
yeah. I couldn't. Yeah, I can't. It nearly made me throw up that movie. I couldn't watch it.
But
fair.
Seriously, no. I had to get one walk out of the cinema. I was gonna die or not.
oh my.
Mm.
But in bigger news of that time, Walt Disney also introduced the first popular animated cartoons with synchronized sound later this year,
Hmm.
Steamboat Willie and Galloping Gaucho. Interesting. I don't think I've heard of that one. Steamboat Willie, Mickey's first sound cartoon, was then re-released on November 18th, 1928, with sound and premiered at the 79th Street Colony Theater in New York. It was Disney's first cartoon with a post-produced synchronized soundtrack of music, dialogue, and sound effects, and considered Mickey Mouse's and Minnie's screen debut, performance, and birth date. It was the first sound cartoon that was a major hit. Walt Disney provided the voice for Mickey until his death. So
Mm.
Is
this
that
is
right?
a monumental moment in cinema with the
I
debut
actually
of
didn't know
Steamboat
that.
Willie.
I actually didn't know Walt did his voice.
Here you go.
Hmm.
Yep.
Look, he has a range of talents, um,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting because he did not do a lot of directing after the first couple years. Then he just became like, pull the strings.
Well,
Um,
until Sean Baker, he was the only man who to win 4 different Oscars
Hmm.
in one night.
yep.
Yeah.
Until Sean Baker, yeah, very good.
And
Hmm.
technically Bong Joon-ho did not.
Yes,
because his fourth Oscar went to the country of South Korea and not Bong Joon-ho, because
because
that's how the
obviously,
international Oscar works.
South Korea made the movie, Shane, not Bong Joon-ho. Like, duh.
I feel
Wonder where that Oscar sits. In a museum somewhere in Seoul.
what I'm imagining is that Bong Joon-ho gave them one of his other 3 Oscars so that they could be sitting there kissing each other in the display case.
Imagining him like,
wherever they have it on
I have
display
one
in
too
South
many of
Korea.
these. You can keep them. I
Yeah.
have one too many of them anyway, so he just it's fine. Take this one. By the way, just to my previous point, the movie wasn't called The Last Broadcast, the
Oh.
first found footage horror before Blair Witch Project. Sorry, not to be on a tangent.
No, it's all right. This is a Google type episode.
And that was the last time people thought about it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like we pointed out,
Marketing.
the winners write history here, like Blair Witch Project and Walt Disney.
Yes.
The first time I feel like they were probably ever clumped in the same place. The Best Picture nominated Western film in Old Arizona, made by directors. I've never known how to pronounce this. Is it Raoul Walsh?
Raoul.
Raoul.
Raoul. Yeah.
Raoul Walsh and Irving Cummings was released. It was the first full-length talkie film to be shot outdoors on location and not in a studio, as well as the first sound Western.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
Wait, did you
I
say
wonder where they
Arizona?
hid all the microphones. Yeah. Haven't you ever been to Arizona?
I've
With
heard of
Jackie Daytona?
I
For
was
us
waiting for somebody
non-Americans,
to react to that.
I don't think Shane has watched. I don't think Luke has seen What We Do in the Shadows. I'm not sure.
I've seen the movie. I haven't seen the show.
Yeah, there you go. You need to watch the show.
If you want to understand my reference that I slipped in there, you should go check out the Jackie
Arizona.
Daytona episode of What We Do in the Shadows.
I will definitely. It's on my list.
Why do you talk like that? Well, everybody talks like this in Tucson, Arizona.
Wait, so to my question, is that like an old-fashioned name for Arizona? Was
No.
Arizona?
It's just
No,
Matt Berry.
it's Matt Berry. It's Matt Berry.
Matt Berry.
No, but the
Line
Oscar.
delivery.
Wait, but the Oscars Western thingy, the last Arizona. No. You just said, Shane, like, the Oscar, the first sound Western was, what was its name? It was Arizona.
Old Arizona.
Was it Arizona? Okay, I'm a dumbass.
I said Arizona because I wanted to try to see if anybody would pick up. And Luke did, and now you all got a nice good you should go check out What We Do in the Shadows.
And here's me thinking, oh, Arizona used to be Arizona. That makes sense. Okay, never mind then.
I'm pretty sure he just said it like he said Pennsylvania.
Mm.
And it's just, Matt Berry being Matt Berry, which is a global treasure that we could all appreciate because he's amazing. Next up, we have the gangster melodrama The Lights of New York by director Brian Foy, was released by Warner Brothers at the first 100% all-talking feature film as a result of the phenomenal success of The Jazz Singer that had just a few minutes of sound. This first Warner Brothers gangster film was unexpectedly successful, grossing over $2 million.
Wow.
See, if you put the sound in, you get that money.
Yeah, people are ready for that sound, to hear the dialogue, not to read.
New technology brings people out. I think
Avatar.
James Cameron found that out with Avatar too, right?
And then everybody found out how if you misuse the 3D, people are like, no, fuck this. No.
Yeah.
And it died.
Headaches.
James Cameron proving me wrong every time. Way of Water. This came out way too late. This is definitely not making as much money.
Yep.
5 months later, third highest grossing film of all time. I'm like, well, I was wrong.
Never bet against the king. Never.
No, when Fire and Ash comes out, I'm just like, well, this is the 4th highest grossing movie of all time.
Honestly, probably.
It's crazy, right?
Probably.
It's all just going to be Avatar and the Avengers. That's all
Yes.
this is going to be at this point. Warner Brothers' second all-talking picture was The Terror, directed by Roy Del Reus, adaptation of Edgar Wallace's play regarding a haunted house terrorized by a homicidal asylum escapee. The
Mm.
film's many ads capitalized on the new feature of sound creaking doors, howling winds, organ music. Yeah, I love that organ music. Had heard with the Vitaphone and sound on disc process. It will thrill you, grip you, set you into tremors of awe. Hear this creepy tale of mystery, the baffling story of a detective's great triumph with voices and shadows that will rack your nerves and make you like it. Okay?
I actually want to
Okay.
watch it now.
Sounds intense.
Yeah. Come on. Hear them talk in this Vitaphone production of the play that has gripped London for over 3 years.
Is it called The Terror?
Wow.
You said.
The Terror. Yep.
Okay. I kind of want to watch it now.
See, spoiler alert, I really loved the movie we're going to talk about. I'm like, why didn't we do this one?
Yep.
Mm.
So, next up, Danish director Carl Theodor Dreyer's startling and influential The Passion of Joan of Arc used minimal sets, extreme oblique and other unusual camera angles and excruciatingly huge close-ups to create a virtually new visual language soulfully expressive of the martyr played by Maria Falconetti suffering psychology. We're going to
That's a
actually
great
talk about
movie.
this in a little bit later, but no, this is just chef's kiss of filmmaking.
Very
This
good
movie
movie.
feels like this was like 30 years early
Yeah.
in terms of just like the filmmaking and everything. You go the Danes,
Mm.
making some great cinema. There you go.
Yes.
Um, future star John Wayne, a former prop man, has often been credited as making his debut feature film appearance on an unbilled extra in director John Ford's melodrama Mother Matry. But Wayne had already appeared in uncredited extras or bit players in films dating back to 1926, including Brown of Harvard, uh, Bartley's The Magnificent, The Great K&A, Train Robbery, Annie Laurie, and The Dropkick. So you got that John Wayne,
Ooh,
which
John.
is I remember watching one of his movies from my series and seeing John Wayne in the background and just being like, it's John Wayne, as just like a random soldier in a scene. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, just think. And then he'd be a megastar
Yeah.
and people would love him for decades until people will start to hate him for decades afterwards. So
Maybe.
there you go. Paramount became the first studio to announce it would only produce talkies. Warner Brothers is like, here's your first full talkie. Paramount's like, we're making all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So they laid that gauntlet down. We have Ernst Liebich's and Paramount's dramatic silent film, The Patriot, the Lost film, was the only silent film nominated for the Best Picture Academy Award in 1928. It was the last silent movie to receive a Best Picture nomination, unless one counted the mostly silent The Artist from 2011, which won in 2012. Only
Mm-hmm.
minor exceptions or portions of the film exist, thereby making it the only Best Picture nominee to exist in incomplete form. That's also very interesting.
Yep.
From
And
its
speaking of,
five, yeah,
Mhm.
go ahead, Luke.
No, I was gonna say, and speaking of like lost films and like and talkies, the Terror we mentioned before, or you mentioned before, it's also presumed lost. Only the soundtrack has survived, so we couldn't even watch
Oh,
it. Yep.
well, we could at least hear the terror. Um,
What
there you go. What a twist! They didn't used to be able to hear the movies, and now we can't see this one. Uh,
Yeah.
so, um, let's see. The Patriot had 5 Oscar nominations, including Best Actor, Best Art Direction, Best Director, and Best Picture. It won only Best Writing Achievement. The budget was enormous, estimated to be $1 million. It featured a synchronized music score with orchestral accompaniment added during post-production. German actor Emil Jannings starred in the semi-biopic as a mad despot, Tsar Paul the First.
Ooh.
I was wondering what kind of patriot, and now I know, Russian. Uh, there we go. Unlike the Roland Emmerich Mel Gibson movie that I watched a lot growing up, The
Yep.
Patriot, which is about true American patriots. So there you
Yes.
go.
Mel Gibson. Yes.
Yes. Um, Warner's follow-up film and melodramatic musical, The Singing Fool, was released in both sound and silent versions. It's a musical. Why would you release it in a silent version?
You can always imagine the songs, Shane. Obviously. Yeah.
This is an audio podcast, so you did not see that what made Luke laugh, but you can imagine it.
Yes.
It contained the first hit song from the Talking movie soundtrack, Al Jolson's performance of Sonny Boy. Only have a few more left. MGM's first sound film, although it was part silent, part talkie, was director W.S. Van Dyke's epic adventure romantic drama, White Shadows in the South Seas. And it was also the first instance in which audiences heard MGM's logo mascot, Leo the Lion, roar. Yeah. See, that's
cool.
real. That's real cinematic history right now. And now I get disgusted because the beautiful MGM lion roars and then it says an Amazon company.
Yeah. It
And
feels
then
so
it's like,
wrong.
no!
It's sad, but I think we're still lucky that it lives on because it could have easily just all gone to nowhere.
It would have,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess we should thank you, Mr. Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, there's
Thank
pros
you.
and cons, right?
Yes.
Thank you for your Amazon money for keeping Leo the Lion alive.
And now they have James Bond, so just we wait until, or what they gonna do with James Bond?
Just imagine if American warehouse staff weren't exploited the way they are, then we wouldn't have MGM anymore.
There you
They've
go.
put in the hard work for all of us.
Yes, thank you, all of our exploited American workers, for keeping Leo the Lion employed and on movie screens.
Yes.
Well, now that they threw all the broccoli out, now Jeff Bezos has full control of James Bond. There you go. Director Jermaine Dulac released the classic The Seashell and the Clergyman. So say that 5 times fast. I'm not gonna say, and then in parentheses it has the French title. I'm like, nope, not attempting this. The first surrealist film, although many have claimed Un Chien Andalo, which I know is the Appalachian Dog, by Luis Buñuel and Salvador Dali, a year later, was the first. So yet again, somebody not getting credit for doing something first, because Buñuel and Salvador Dali had a better marketing campaign, and also cut a name. They cut an eye open, so I feel like that one lasted a little longer.
Talk to Guglielmo Marconi about that.
Well,
poor bloke.
Italians. The latter film, filled with irrational and shocking images, opened with the infamous scene of the slashing of a woman's eyeball with a razor blade. See, I didn't even read the rest of the blurb, and I knew. There we go. That's what got
J horror. That's J horror type of stuff.
Oh, Jess and I were trying to pick a movie off of the screening list that I had, and I read through like 10 synopses, and I'm like, "Are you gonna pick one?" And she's like, "What's the next one?" I'm like, "It's a Japanese horror movie." He's like, "Let's do that," and then regretted every hour and 25 minutes. Well, it's like, why did we pick this one? I'm like, why did you pick this one? But for the record, it's freaking creepy because Japanese horror is on a whole other level of weird shit. Yeah. Asian horror films don't mess around.
No.
Yep. Just for you, there's a public service announcement for all of you out there. The first reported example of the use of freeze frame, a special effects camera shot or optical technique that halts the action on a single frame of film, giving the impression of a still photo, was in director Alfred Hitchcock's early British comedy film Champagne. In the shot,
Yeah.
a group of dancers on a cruise ship were freeze framed. Then, as the image pulled back, it transitioned to become a framed picture labeled New Year's Eve Aquintania.
Mm.
And lastly, Broadway star actor Humphrey Bogart made his film debut and his first leading film role
Huh.
opposite Helen Hayes in the two-reel short The Dancing Town. His success soon led to a film contract with Fox Film Corporation.
Dumb question. Is that Helen Hayes any relation to the guy behind the Hayes Code?
Hmm.
I wonder. I
I did
wonder.
not do my research
Nepotism
to
started
find
early
that
in
out.
Hollywood.
It's not even nepotism. I was just thinking, like, is it like her, like uncle or dad or whoever, and that's why he wanted to be like, no, nobody's gonna do this to my.
So, as somebody who has never watched this film and only can speculate, I'm imagining father-daughter situation where it's like she got a little bit risque in the movie, and dad's like, never again,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
changed film history for the rest. So there you go. But yes, we got Mickey Mouse, we got RKO Pictures, and Humphrey Bogart all in 1928,
Nice.
and the
Again.
Oscars. So there you
And the
go.
Oscars.
There we go. But let's do some highlights from the box office. The Singing Fool was the highest grossing film of the year. I saw from my research it made $3.82 million. I would
Mm.
like some of that money, especially in 1928 money.
Yep.
What
Yeah.
that would be today. Other
Mm.
films that did well. The Circus from Charlie Chaplin, which I actually just watched for the first time, probably probably like 5 months ago. Street Angel and Lilac Time, the total box office revenue was $11.2 million from the whole year of 1928, which honestly, unfortunately, still makes more money, which is more money than most films still make at the box office right now. Unless you're like really hitting it, a lot of these films are skating by with like openings and $3 million and then just so
Mm.
Mm.
unless you're Lilo and Stitch, as well as we're recording, which made
Smashed
a
it.
metric shit ton of money. So
Yeah. I'm actually a bit surprised. I knew it would make money, but I didn't think it would make
it's the
fuck you
power
money.
of millennial and Zoomer nostalgia, who are just like
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Lilo and Stitch. It already made more money than the original, and it
Yeah,
already
right.
made more than Snow White did in its whole run in
Well,
3 days.
I think I make
Um,
more money than Snow White did.
to be frank,
Burn.
I would like to make the amount of money that Snow White did.
Ooh.
Because when you really think about it, that's still a shit ton
Oh,
of money.
oh yeah,
Um,
yeah. I'll
but
pass it up.
we'll see how Lilo and Stitch holds, which I'm imagining it's still gonna make a shit ton of money this weekend as we're
Yeah.
recording. There's also not anything like it'll be interesting to see how much the Karate Kid
Mm.
makes as we are recording this, which is 94 minutes of absolute glee and fun, and you should go check it out. Is it
I'll still be
messy?
surprised if it makes
Sure.
80 million. I'll be surprised if that makes 80.
We'll see how much Sony spent on it because Lilo and Stitch only cost $100 million because it was supposed to be a Disney Plus
Yeah.
original film.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
But let's talk the Academy Awards. So
Yes.
this is our first time doing this, so this is the kind of we're playing around with the structure here of how we're going to go about this. But some of the things I wanted to highlight. So, outstanding picture was Wings versus The
Mhm.
Racket versus Seventh Heaven. And have either of you seen any of these movies?
Not yet.
I
No.
have no.
Me neither. So we cannot make judgment on what should have won
Great start to this new
outstanding
segment.
picture. Um, but here's the thing: there's other
Might keep
films
this
that were
until we get to the
nominated that
70s.
have stood the test of time,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
and that's the thing. It's just like how relevant are the Oscars
Yep.
to what's really going to stand the test of time? Which is interesting because the two special awards went to The Circus from Charlie Chaplin and The Jazz Singer,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
which I have seen both of them. actually do not like the Jazz Singer very much.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Well, because Luke, have you seen it?
Nope.
Let's just say
There's blackface in that, right?
there's a
Like that's
healthy
Al.
dose of blackface in it.
Yeah.
And
It's
also
Al
like
Jolson.
it's one of those kinds of things where it's like this is a famous movie because of the technical aspect of it. And then
Mm,
the rest of the movie isn't that particularly interesting either.
I see.
But the circus is because it's peak Chaplin and he's doing some great stuff with it for sure. Now, this is interesting because they had a unique and artistic film category.
Mm.
So I guess the original Best Picture was the popular film award back then, and then they had an artistic Best Film
Yeah.
award too. So now this has Sunrise, The Crowd, which we're going to talk about, and Chang, which I know I've seen Sunrise, and I think it's absolutely incredible.
It is.
Amazing film, and we'll hold our thoughts on The Crowd
Mhm.
because we're going to be talking about that in depth. But I have not seen or heard of Chang,
Me
so I
neither.
don't have any thoughts on that one.
Nope.
And then we have our Best Actor and Actress categories, which it's so funny because
Fascinating.
both winners won from multiple films.
Mm. Well, there's only
Um,
2 nominees for actor, but they're in 4 films, as in 2 each.
yeah. Obviously,
Really strange.
things have changed a lot since then.
Mhm.
Emil
Good to see
Jannings
Gloria
won
Swanson get
for
nominated, though.
The Last Command and The Way of the Flesh. I've actually seen The Last Command, and I thought it was a really interesting and really good movie. And I would not argue with him winning Best Actor because he put in some work in it. So,
Mm.
I don't have a whole lot of frame of reference for the actors for this year, but I think Jannings' performance in The Last Command was actually really good and would recommend checking out that film. Have
Okay.
either of you seen either of these?
Unfortunately, not.
And then we have Janet Gaynor, who won for Sunrise and Street Angel and Seventh Heaven. Not to be
Wow.
confused with the 90s sitcom. Um, well, I guess it was more of a dramatic show.
Yeah.
Which is now clouded with a lot worse kind of stuff.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
But Sunrise, she was great in Sunrise. So I
Yes,
could
she was.
definitely see that for sure. Um, but yeah, that's all I really had for the acting categories. Now, I thought this would be a fun thing that we can do. Now, I don't know how well this is going to work for this one, and also because I forgot to prep you both for this segment. So we're gonna go. Now, question: do either of you keep track of the movies you watch for like cinematic years? Like these are all the films
No.
I've watched from 1927 or
I
1928.
I check not
No.
to your extent where I have a list of every single year on your letterboxd because like you're like
Which is
another
just a
level.
copy of my spreadsheet that I have because I have that right in front of me.
But I do like
Yes.
to check my stats because I pay for the patron tier or letterbox, so it gives you like all the nice stats. So like I can see
Mm.
like like 20s and 30s are still my like 30s are my highest rated decade because like I've only seen the
Ah.
greatest movies, so like my
Yeah.
average rating is like 4.38. So like like if you look at my like I looked over 4,500 movies now on Letterboxd, and 30s are my highest rated decade. So
There you go.
but 20s I have not seen many, and I want to do like a proper Oscar binge from the very beginning. Like if it's been nominated for Oscar and if it exists, I would like to see it. But like feature films, not documentaries. Sorry, documentaries, and like shorts maybe. But yeah, like
Well,
feature
this
films.
is why my watch list is so obscene because it has every single film that's available that has been nominated for an Oscar on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Every film.
Yep.
There
But
is
what? Oh, go ahead, Adam.
no. Sorry, I was going to say I do keep track of. There is an app that I have called. It's just called Awards, and it's basically the Oscars for every year. And there's a little button that you can change. You tap it, so I keep track of Oscar-nominated movies that I've watched.
Mm-hmm.
Just by
Mm-hmm.
tapping that, so I can go into any year of the Oscars and see if I've seen it or not.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty
Yeah,
Okay.
cool. That is
yeah,
a
it's a good
really
app.
cool sounding app. I might have to check it
Meet
out. And we would
meet the
love
awards.
if they want to throw us some money.
Yeah.
always looking for sponsorship.
Sure.
We will pour out any products that you want if you're going to give us money.
Yes.
So there we go.
I fucking share
Um,
that.
but what I thought would be a fun segment is our best picture winners.
Oh.
So I don't know if either of you would be able to really
Mm.
do this at this point, but what I'm just going to throw out, because technically this is 1927 and 28,
Mm-hmm.
so I have an
Mm-hmm.
answer for both of these. The film that I would give Best Picture for 1927 is Metropolis, which obviously was not really
Mm-hmm.
considered at the Oscars because German. And I think most of these films were like American films for the most part. For the most part. But my favorite film that I think is the best film from 1927 is Metropolis, but Sunrise is a close second because that is also a great film. So those are the two films that I've watched from that year that I think are like truly great, that really stand the test of time. And then 1928, um, I'm gonna gush about The Crowd when we talk about it, but I can't help but pick The Passion of Joan of Arc as the best film that I've seen from 1928 because that film's on a whole other level of filmmaking that just does not process in my brain that this was made almost 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild. The only thing
Yeah.
that makes it seem like it's made 100 years ago is because it's still a silent film.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and but like Maria Falconetti, just the performance is incredible. And you see everything because this uses some close-ups,
Yep.
as we pointed out, which feels so modern compared to so many films from this
Mm-hmm.
time. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, those are just my 2 cents. I don't know if either of you want to throw out like what are your top films from those years if you have
S-
such
So
things
I
tracked like
was
that.
quick enough to check my letterbox, and I've seen like 4 movies each year.
Okay.
So like Metropolis would be probably for 27, and probably The Crowd for this one
There we
would
go.
be
How
for
would I
mine.
even see what year the film is made? I don't know. In
If
my
you
letterbox, that is.
if you go to like films, and there's a like you can sort it by decade, and if you click on decade you can actually see every single year, so you can just click on a,
Ah,
and then that gives you all the movies you've rated from that year.
okay.
So
Righto,
for
I
the
can do that.
record, I have seen 11 films from 1927
Nice.
and 9 from 1928. So it's not like I know technically it's more than doubled
Mm-hmm.
that, but like we're still dealing with like single digits and barely
Yeah.
double digit numbers. So
Yeah.
like it's nothing crazy. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um but
Yeah, I don't even know.
yeah, so I figured this could be a fun thing that we could do moving forward. So now
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Hmm.
So next month we'll talk about our top film from 1929 and what we thought should win best picture winner.
Okay.
But interesting to look at that original year because what there's like 6 films nominated for Oscars.
Yep.
It's just basically like, well, here's a couple, and there you go. But are we ready to talk about The Crowd?
Let's do it.
We are.
So this is obviously from 1928. If you couldn't figure that out from us talking about 1928 for the past 40 minutes, but this is a film from writer director King Vidor, who is I feel like a pretty big name from that
Mm-hmm.
era
Hmm.
of film. And the life of a man and a woman together in a large impersonal metropolis through their hopes, struggles, and downfalls. Seems pretty vague, but this is definitely a much more like human drama kind of story. So it's not like this has like a big MacGuffin filled kind of plot film.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
very much a
Hmm.
drama and it's an hour and 38 minutes. And IMDb calls it a workplace drama, a drama, and a romance. But let's jump in here. But let's start with you, Luke. What were your general thoughts on The Crowd?
I really, really like this movie. Like I would say the universality of the story still resonates and will resonate with many people even today.
Hmm.
And how all like this is like almost 100 years old, and it still is relevant when it comes to like you wanted to make it, and you're just you always feel like you're so close, but yet again you fail. And then how that intertwines, with your relationship with your significant other, and being a kind of a dick, and she's a kind of a saint. Like like we still see it to this day. So
Yep.
like I really appreciated this movie. I loved it much more than I thought I would.
How about you, Adam?
Um, yeah, surprise, surprise, very similar to Luke. Yeah, this is a great film, and
Mm.
again, surprised how much I really liked it. I was one of those ones where I was totally engaged. It was yeah, really good. It's just stupidly relevant to today. Just basically a guy trying to from a kid going I'm going to be big one day and doesn't really achieve his dreams, and it tells a really typical story of married life. Like you see that niggle between them. They're married night, their opening wedding night was really
Mm.
funny because you could tell on the train like they were
Yep.
just excited to fuck, and it was like had to be 1928 type of censorship, right? And it was just,
Mm.
and he finally gets in the bed and he just rolls over and then like, oh, I thought that type of stuff was actually really funny. It had a lot going for it. Like there was actually a quite shocking moment. I don't know if we want to talk about that now or a bit later in the film, but
Hmm.
something I wasn't expecting to happen. I have a few notes here, but we might expand on that a bit later. But overall, yeah, this is really impressive. Also, King Vidor, some of his technique was Im so impressive,
Yep.
so
Hmm.
impressive for the time. Some of his camera work, there's some editing and stitching that isn't quite as seamless as what you'd see in a later Hitchcock film like Notorious or something, but some of the stuff he does in here is I kind of tout Citizen Kane as being such a technical masterpiece, which is why so many people love it. But then I see a film like this 10 years earlier and go, yeah, this is, I thought Citizen Kane was doing it first. It wasn't. Like, this is really impressive stuff.
Hmm.
Well, Orson Welles won that marketing game. Um, the
I'm
winners are
sensing a
Yeah.
theme.
remembering.
I'm sen-
Yeah, yeah.
There's
Yeah,
the
it
moral of
has
the
been
story for this episode of the Cinematic
yeah.
Wasteland.
Do
But
it second,
I'm,
and you'll be the one remembered.
I feel like I'm gonna jump off with that first because from that first shot of the camera going up the side of that
Up the
building,
building.
and I'm like, because the first thing that popped in my head was Hudsucker Proxy.
Yes,
Mm,
exactly
yes,
same.
yes,
Yep.
And
yes.
I'm like, because the Coens
Cohen
are
stole
big
it.
fans
Oh
of
yeah, yeah.
films like
They
this, and
stole
I'm
it.
like, the whole office setup in Hudsucker Proxy, the whole
Yep.
building and the work stuff. I'm like, this just came to life in this. That like crane
Mm.
shot over all the desks
There
in that
Yes,
must have been.
big
so
sprawling
impressive.
office,
I
so good. And
wonder how many
even
crew people and extras died from stuff falling off the crane because they know that's not going to be an OH&S type of standard.
oh, it was a different time then.
Yes.
And even like at the very end, that shot over the crowd, and
Hmm.
Yeah,
just this
yeah.
had so this is why this was nominated for the artistic film
Mm.
Oscar, because like there's some really impressive technical aspects, and even like the use of editing for trauma
Hmm.
later in the film, where like flashing shots or like the projected like thought bubble kind of stuff, which that's not unique to this film. It was wild when I was doing some of the like the 19 single
Yeah.
digits where they would do stuff
Yeah,
like that, but this felt so seamless and really done well. So like from a technical standpoint, this is just incredible. There's nice tracking shots. The blocking is incredible and so precise on everything, which is
yeah.
wild because like this is a very human film because
Hmm.
that's what
Mm.
the story is, but it's also like a really impressive technical film too.
Yep.
So it really works on both those levels. But technical standpoint, great. I think like the production design, even just like of the building and the offices and stuff like that, this is
Hmm.
going to influence films for like over 100 years afterwards,
Yep.
thinking about it that way. And I thought that the two performances, the two leads did a really great
Yeah.
job. Like
Yep.
I don't know who James Murray or Eleanor Boardman are, but like they left an impression on me. I think they
Hmm.
did both did a really great job of bringing a lot of emotion. They had great chemistry. Like their like initial like date kind of thing where like they're bantering in the car, which also like making comments about the crowd and the people and stuff like that. I'm like, I see where
Yeah.
you're going here thematically.
Mm.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
and like even from that, and like you mentioned Adam from like their wedding night on the train and stuff like that, like all that
Yeah.
stuff just really worked because I
Mhm.
thought they had great
Yeah.
chemistry together.
And they felt believable. Like
Mhm.
just to quickly go back to the technical standpoint, the moment I was like, "Damn, this is something different than all the other movies we watched from this
Mm.
period," was
Mhm.
the shot of the kid, of him when he was young, and
Yes.
his dad died, and there is this beautiful shot as he needs to come upstairs, and almost like it
Mm.
symbolizes like, "Hey, this is you need to become a man," and it's like
Yeah.
you need to step up, and he's literally stepping up, and it's like it's like a triangle almost shot, and he's like at the tip of the triangle, and I'm like,
Mm.
damn, this is fucking good.
Mhm.
And
It's
yeah,
classy,
like
isn't it?
yeah, it is. And just as you mentioned, Shane, their chemistry, like you believe them their entire relationship. Like when they start, it's like the awkward bit, he there. Then the first, like the wedding night. Then when they have the first fight, it all feels real. It all
It's
feels like you are there with them, like with both of them. Because if you've been around for a while and been in a relationship, you probably have been in
it's
one of those
authentic.
places. Yes.
Mhm.
Very authentic. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It also gave me well, help consolidate my hate for the beach too, this film. Because there's a couple of scenes on the beach where I'm like, why the fuck would you take an open cake and leave it on the sand when you got kids and it's like, oh, I hate the beach, man. And they're making sandwiches. I'm like, you're eating sand. Like, why are you doing? And they're wearing like these woolen cardigans and suit and slacks, and you're at the beach. Like, that just made me go, yeah, this is why the beach is a shit place to be.
I thought you mean like the beach, the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio. I was like, what?
No,
How
I
does
like the beach. That's a bit of a guilty pleasure, the beach. I
Mhm.
actually really like that.
it is? It is, yeah.
For the record, Adam likes the beach, the movie, but not the place.
No, the place,
No,
yes.
And
not the
similar
sandy place.
to Anakin Skywalker, Adam just does not like sand.
Yeah,
I hate
yeah.
sand.
It's
It's
only
always
I had Natalie
irritating.
Portman by my side. If only she was
That
by
would
my
make the
side.
beach better.
I probably wouldn't have turned up to this podcast.
For the record, I also hate sand, and I'm not a big fan of the beach.
Ah,
Um, I
I don't
I've
understand the love for it.
I've had 4 precancerous moles removed, so I'm just
No.
like I can't even go out in the sunlight, direct
Mm.
sunlight. Like I'm pretty pale for an Italian American, despite the fact that like I can tan really well. It's just
But
like I can't because I'm a vampire.
you keep growing that beard, then you could be a vampire like Jackie Daytona. You're not
Oh.
far from Staten Island, right? You're not too far from Staten Island.
I'm honestly not that far from
Yeah.
but there's also an insane amount of Italian Americans on Staten
Yeah,
Island.
yeah,
So
yeah.
they're a little bit of there's layers and levels to Italian Americans from Philly to Jersey to New York's, and
Hmm.
even in New York, you'll find different types of Italian Americans between. I feel like Staten Island is like a very specific type, and his neighbor, the neighbors in
Yeah,
What We
yeah,
Do
yeah,
in the
yeah,
Shadows,
yeah, yeah.
100%, like
Yep.
nails that perfect. But um, I thought that this film, like the in-law dinner,
Hmm.
too
Mm,
relatable. Like, and here's the thing,
absolutely.
I have a very good relationship with my mother-in-law, and but not a lot of not everybody has good relationships with their in-laws. And
Mm,
that scene, just like this scene is gonna be like played out in movies for decades, like a century to
yeah,
come,
yeah.
because like just the discomfort
He's
and the judgment, and it's just like, damn,
yeah.
there's
He's
some
not good
good
enough for
writing
her,
here.
and yeah.
But see, the thing is, right? What I like about this movie, you can kind of see where they're coming from. It's not like he's been like a wild
Mm,
success, and it's always he is one of those guys. He's like you can see even today. Oh yeah, I'm a stock trader, whatever. Like yes, I lost a lot of money. I don't have an actual job, but hey, it's one. Give me one more day, one more week, one more month, and I will turn it around, baby. I will turn it. So like from that standpoint, it's not like they hate him for no reason. They kind of don't like him because he's not really been great, and also he doesn't really treat her also well in many stages. So I'm like, as much as I would love to be like, oh yeah, they are just evil in-laws. It's kind of like I see their point, and I think that's to the credit of the movie, where it's like much there's more nuance to that.
Well, this was definitely the beginning of the sitcom husband
Hmm. Oh,
because
100%,
Yeah.
because
100%.
like every single sitcom throughout the 90s was what a bumbling fool this husband is.
Mm.
But we love him and his
Yes.
wife, who is much more attractive than him, and he's playing well above his weight class,
And
is just like long suffering. And like honestly,
she's
yeah.
keeping the family together. She's
Yep.
holding everything together because he is such a dumbass.
I feel like I've watched so many sitcoms from like the 90s and 2000s. I feel like King of Queens is like the perfect example of Kevin James does not deserve like all the stuff that he has in his life. How much of a he is in that show. But no, like you feel like there's like obviously were there films that did kind of stuff like this before?
Hmm.
No, I haven't watched them, but there could be. But I feel like this sets up a lot
Yeah,
of tropes for a
Yes.
lot of relationships
definitely.
in media moving forward, and I
Hmm.
feel like it hits. And then
Hmm.
I feel like this is the time we could pull the band-aid off.
I was gonna say, speaking of it
Yeah,
hits.
man, what a fucking pulling the rug out from under you moment that was.
Like
So
that truck driver was trying to hit that kid, just to be clear.
Yeah,
He was fucking following that kid.
he hunted it down. Like hit your brakes at least, mate. Like holy
Yeah,
shit.
this was like Jewel.
yeah.
Like they were coming for them.
It was
So
Christine. That's what it was. It
You need
wasn't
to
Jewel. It
die.
was Christine. Oh
so
my god.
a little anecdote. So I was watching this, and Jess woke up and came down while I was in the middle of watching this. And like I'm watching this, and we're like chit chatting, and then this moment happens, and my jaw just dropped. She's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, and she looked at the screen and saw this girl get hit by this truck, and just like, "What movie is this?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"I didn't think it was this kind of movie."
What's great? What makes that hit harder is because he's just gotten his $500, which would have been a shit ton of money back
Yeah.
then for
Yes.
his winning that slogan competition.
Yeah.
They're all on top of the world, and then all of a sudden, hey, call the kids across the road. I'm like, don't call your kids across the road.
I
And
was
I
gonna say
think,
the
well, they're going to
Wow,
moment
make
hey,
it
get
because
your
it's a
damn
movie.
kids.
Yeah, but
the moment we see the shot from across the road, I was like, "Uh-oh, is this gonna go where I think it's?"
well,
And it went. I was like, "Fuck."
that's the thing. I had the expectation like they're going to be fine, and then like you see the car, it's going to be it's going to be a close call. But then this thing hunts her down like Christine and just clonk, bye bye, kid dead, and then let's replace it with another one. 5 minutes later.
I was gonna say it's
Well,
1920s,
well,
Yeah,
um,
the
I feel
mortality rate
like
wasn't high. It wasn't high.
well, to be fair, the most toxic way of trying to fix a marriage is insert child.
Yeah,
So it's just
yeah,
like a baby will fix this, but no, that shot, that girl's like in the middle, and like that truck is coming, and you're just like, and that poor kid, and then the ripple effect
Mm-hmm.
of this and the scenes that follow, there's just so much emotion, and he's like
mm,
a shell of
mm,
himself, and him at work, and just like
yep.
these flashes in his
Yep.
head.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that was some pretty good work too with the dual layering of the scenes. Like it was
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
on his head, like it
Mm-hmm.
was in his brain, like
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Homer. Looked
yep.
good.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh man, this and like this got me, and I'm just
Mm-hmm.
like, I feel so bad for this couple, and
Mm,
just the what it does, and you just see the spiral of their relationship. And not gonna lie, the will they won't they break up dance, all that stuff at the end really
yeah,
got me. Like
yeah,
that was really effective.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just
yep.
like, you can tell these two people don't want to be apart, but
Mm,
like, should they
mm,
be together? And you just have this, and you know, as like I'll speak from my own experience. It's like I've had breakups like that
Mm-hmm.
where at the end that breakup didn't happen.
Mm.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
you
yeah,
just have those
yeah.
kinds of moments. And, it just, this film is so surprising with how effective it is at crafting a drama with real characters and
Mm,
just these really authentic performances. And it just gets you. I was pretty blown away by
Same.
this experience. Like,
mm,
honestly, this is like looking back at what we've done on this show together, like
mm.
this is like
This is
up
probably my
there.
favorite movie we've watched so far. I don't know if it's the best, but it's definitely my favorite one we've watched. I
Okay.
think, I think a big factor in that is that it takes me by surprise when I watch these
Mhm.
older films to realize that life wasn't really that much different from those type of levels than it is today, like from a
Mm,
relationship level, from just
Mhm.
making your way through life. Like it's all very there's not much different to today. Like we're all trying to
Yes.
live big dreams. We're all trying to get that promotion and make more money, support our families, and blah blah
Mhm.
blah. And sometimes we hit these walls. Sometimes our kid gets hit by a car, then we almost break up. And but you know what I mean. Like obviously the
yes.
last part was in
Oh yeah.
jest, but it's
Yeah.
it's it's just refreshing to see that we haven't evolved that much, I suppose, in those respects.
Well, go ahead, Luke.
No, I was just gonna say, like, yeah, no, everything you say, Adam. Basically, it's what hit me. Like as you say, the dance is great, but the ending, like as mentioned in my letterboxd review as well,
Mm,
I didn't expect the ending. I genuinely, because like it at first, it seems like a happy ending, right? Like the very
yeah.
last scene, but then if you think about it, is it happy ending? And I think again, it's like what so, and I think that kind of underlines this entire movie. It's much more complex and it's much more nuanced than it
Mm,
has any right to be for 1928, when movies
mm-hmm,
were
mm-hmm.
most movies were not as complex and nuanced. Where
Yeah.
you know, oh yeah, they are happy right now. As to your point, Shane, from earlier, they are happy right now, and you can tell they are obviously like attracted to each other. They probably both like actually love each other very much, but nothing much has changed. He still is not like he's gotten like a big promotion or like
No. Yeah.
he
Yeah.
landed his dream job. So like they are happy at this very moment. But if you think about it for a couple of seconds, the next day they're gonna be back to where they were before, where they're gonna be back in that rut, right? And it's
Mhm.
like I really didn't expect this. And I think that's what makes it, as you pointed out, Adam, like one of the best we've watched so far, because the power of unexpected. Because there's a preconceived notion about, oh, this is a movie from 1920, whatever, right?
Yeah.
We've seen all of it because we moved past
Mhm.
it, and many movies since then have been, obviously influenced by this movie. But so that still takes something unique to get us all surprised, and we all watch a shit ton of movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is basically up there with the Phantom Carriage
Hmm. Hmm.
in terms of
Yes.
like these are two
Yep.
great films
Quality.
from
Yeah.
Yes.
the 1920s. And even yeah, that shot at the end where it just like pulls back on the crowd
Hmm. Hmm.
and they're just part of the crowd. And I think
Yeah.
what's so
Yeah.
important to
Yeah.
realize about this film is that this is people that are low enough in class in 1920 that they married for love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what makes this relatable because, like, there's a lot of films from back then that are like high class society because,
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
enjoying that kind of thing and the relationships and the dynamics are different. This is so much more relatable for like us today
Hmm.
Yes.
because a lot of people now marry out of love and
Hmm.
connection and stuff like that
Yeah.
compared to back then or
Mm.
like you know
It was class and
obviously
money and
obviously there's still that going on today, but like this was very relatable for people in 2025.
mm.
Just
Hmm.
strip away the advancements of technology and stuff like that. They're still at the core of this a very human
Yes.
story that we can relate to.
Hmm.
It's
Yes.
because
So
the
there.
arguments, the struggles they have are real. The arguments are real. That's the saying before about authenticity. Like and that the fact that we haven't evolved much, it's still all the same. Like human nature hasn't changed, is probably what I was trying to say. Obviously, the world around us has, but our nature hasn't.
And again, like it's such a smart step for the movie to start with him being a kid, and with the scene, what are you gonna be when you grow up? I aspire to be a cowboy, and then he says, "Oh, my daddy
Yeah.
always says I'm gonna be somebody big," and that
Yeah.
aspiration, and then never living up to that aspiration, but always chasing it,
Mm,
like.
mm,
That's something so universal for pretty much everybody, no matter where you're from, no matter
mm.
like your color of your skin or like nationality. It's something so tangible. Hey,
Yep.
I could be great. Like oh, my parent or who this and this person so and so told me I will be somebody great, and I'm not living up to that, and then I'm down on myself. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's another like layer why this movie is actually pretty great.
Yeah. But those are our thoughts on King Vidor's 1928 film, The Crowd. And that's our thoughts on the year 1928 as a whole. So this is another episode of the Cinematic Wasteland wrapping up here. But let's look towards next month where we jump into 1929. We'll still have the same segments and everything, but we'll be talking about uh, Zviga Vertov's Man with a Movie Camera.
Yes.
So we're hopping on over to, I'm assuming this is a Soviet film, right?
Yes, Russian.
Yeah.
One of the most
So,
influential Russian, filmmaker. Yep.
yep, at this
Yeah,
point,
Kaufman.
which was indeed the Soviet Union, by 1929.
Yep.
So we will
Mm.
be checking out this Soviet classic, but thank you all for listening. And Luke and Adam, thank you as always for coming on and joining me on this ride through cinematic history.
Always a blast.
Thank you once again. Yeah, good fun. Bring on next month.
And all of you out there, make sure to like, comment, and share on this episode. What are some of have you seen any of these like early Oscar nominated films? Maybe you've seen one of the outstanding picture nominees, unlike the three of us. I know what Wings is. I've never watched it. It's on my watch list, obviously.
Same.
But and make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. The SPM Crew Podcasting Network is ever expanding. I know Adam has a new show brewing as well.
We do.
And I have 5 of them on. So, but it's getting to the point where I'm having trouble keeping up with all these podcasts. But honestly, I've been
Right.
getting into the groove with some of them because we have so many different shows that you could check out. Whether it's Luke, talking with people about life and the world, and most importantly,
Movies.
movies.
Mhm.
And Adam talking about physical media, which I tried looking up The Crowd on physical media, and from what
Oh.
I could tell, it was only released on VHS and never made the leap.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Interesting. It's kind of one of those ones you think Criterion would get their hands on,
Yep.
actually.
Criterion, if you're listening to us, get on this, put The
And give
Crowd in
us a
the
copy, will you?
collection, and
Take me to the
we
closet.
will gladly pour out
Yes.
all of the collection on here if you want to be our sponsor. And if you like our logo, check out my buddy Joe, who did a great job putting this logo together. Very interesting vibe that I wanted to go with this logo. He has a fun Etsy store. You should go check it out. But most importantly, thank you as always for tuning in and supporting the Cinematic Wasteland here on the SPM Crew Podcasting Network.